Good evening and welcome to the Arundel Camera Club meeting for Thursday, January 9th. My name is John Milliker and I'm the club president for the 2024-2025 season. The Arundel Camera Club was founded in 1957, exists to promote the art, science, and education in all aspects and fields of photography. For more information about us, please visit www.arundelcameraclub.org. We're happy to be meeting in person and also online. If you're local to Anne Arundel County, Maryland, we encourage you to visit us at the Severna Park Baptist Church, located at 506 Benfield Road, Severna Park, Maryland. Before we move to tonight's contest, do we have any announcements from our officers? Yes, Ron.
Okay, as of this afternoon, about 3 o'clock, the MPA exhibit is up and ready for viewing at the House of Delegates building in Annapolis. It's very accessible. It's a nice big room. I really learned a whole lot about photography looking at the quality of the work that people were putting up there and,
nice.
And the types. So yeah, I would really.
Do we have two or three club member images in it?
We do. Let's see. Tim, you have two in, right? In the MPA exhibit? Yep. Congratulations on that. And I think Debbie Wolf has one in, so we have three total, which is a really good representation for the club. So anyway, that's good. And we have a MPA black and white contest coming up in a few weeks. I'll give you some update on that, and so you can start collecting. So you can submit your photos for that coming up anyway. But that's about all I have at this point.
How long does the House of Delegates stay up?
Through the session. So that means right into April, I think.
The question was, how long does it stay up? And the answer is through session. But thank you, Ron, for that. Here's Christine with upcoming schedule.
Okay, just a reminder that dues are now half price since we're into the new year. And we do have some Christmas ornaments left if there's anyone who would like the ornament that we designed for the club for this year. Any money we make from it is being donated to the club, so please. And they're only $5. Next week, we have our very own Jackie Colstock doing a presentation on geometric shapes. On January 19th is our field trip to Eastern State Penitentiary. On January 23rd is our next contest, which is the print contest with the theme of open. On January 30th is tabletop night, and I believe we have a few people helping with that. If you want to bring anything in, please let Mike or Bob know. They're running the evening for us, and there will be no live stream that night since it's all in person and activities. On February 6th is a program by Ron Pfeiffer on photographing the Southwest. On February 8th is our field trip to Washington, D.C. to photograph the monuments at night. And then February 13th is our next digital contest with the theme of geometric photography. And then on February 20th, Ryan Maurer is coming back to talk about cave photography again in preparation for a possible field trip over the summer next year that he will bring up and share some information with the club for. And that is our upcoming schedule. So I'll turn this now back over to Ron, who can introduce our judge.
Okay, I don't normally read the bio on our judges and talk through all of this, but you really need to listen because our judge tonight, Pete Morden, has been with us a year ago, and this is kind of what you do whenever you really take photography seriously. You really get deeply involved in it, and I want you to listen to some of the opportunities he's taken advantage of and kind of build his own skill set out. He's really an excellent photographer. Pete began his photography passion in 1959 when he lived in Taiwan as a son of an Army officer who was stationed there. Over the years, his interest continued to grow. In the 80s, he spent many hours in a dark room in the basement of his home, and by 2001, he was into Adobe Photoshop. And like a lot of us did, put our dark rooms away and off to post-processing. After retiring from the National Institute of Health, Pete joined the Silver Spring Camera Club, where he's currently a director and frequent presenter. He has received numerous photography awards was recognized as a Photographer of the Year and has had his work hung in the Maryland State House. And Pete's work has been in the exhibit that's up now. He's been in that exhibit in some past years. In 2019, Pete attended the judge training program and was certified by the MPA. He has subsequently judged photography compositions for dozens of clubs in numerous states. His judging abilities were enhanced when he completed PSA's Outstanding Image Evaluation course. That's PSA. He is now involved in managing international competitions between 70 U.S. camera clubs and 44 foreign ones. He's a strong advocate of PSA. He's active in the digital dialogue study groups, administers a monochrome study group as well. His involvement in judging photography competitions has led to Pete's philosophy about input from judges. He believes that photographers should never blindly accept a judge's critique. Instead, their input should be carefully weighed, and the photographer should decide which comments they agree with. In fact, anyone's honest thoughts about a photographer's work can be useful. Pete believes that learning from suggestions of others is how we grow as artists. I'm really happy he came back again this year. Pete, you've been with us a couple of times in the past, and I was over to judge your excellent club, Silver Spring, a few weeks ago, and was really challenged myself because he had some really good work, and trying to decide first, second, third is not easy, as you know from this evening. So Pete, and we have your picture up in front of you, so we know what you look like. Unlike some others. Yeah, there we go. So do you have any other thoughts you want to pass on before we get down to business this evening?
I do have a couple. First, when you judged the Silver Spring Camera Club, you did an outstanding job, and it was an incredibly difficult topic. Trying to judge a competition based on humor introduces a whole new area of confusion. Do you decide that the winners are the ones with the most humor, or the best photographs, or some sort of strange combination? And Ron did a fantastic job with that. When I judge, the first thing that I notice is the impact that a photograph has on me. And by impact, I'm talking about what kind of emotion does it instill? And that can be virtually any kind of emotion. It can be fear or excitement or sincerity, virtually anything. But if there's no emotion, there's no feeling. And that, to me, is something of a negative for a photograph. I also, when I look, of course, I'm looking for composition. I'm looking for the technical aspects, and that's even more important in the advanced categories. For novices, it's reasonably important, but I also judge quite strongly on the basis of originality and willingness to take a chance. There are so many photographs that are really good photographs of the same thing that you see 100 times. And I applaud anyone who reaches out and goes for something different. It's a risk, but it's really how we move forward as photographers. The other thing I wanted to mention is that everyone, including judges, has biases based on their life experiences. And I think recognizing that allows a judge to try to minimize or reduce or even attempt to eliminate those biases. And that's something that I take very seriously, and I try hard to not bring biases into my judging. The thing that's important is that you are the one whose opinion really matters about your photographs. So As Ron said, I really encourage you to listen to what others say about your photography. Don't take it to heart, take it to mind. Decide if you agree and incorporate those things that you feel are appropriate for your work. And that's how you develop your own style, and it's how you grow as an artist.
Well, Pete, this evening we've got a lot of work ahead of us because there are 30 novice images and 60 unlimiteds. And that means that when we come up shortly with the novice images, we'll be looking for first through fourth and 3 honorable mentions, I believe.
Right.
Bob, is there anything else I failed to mention? John? Okay. If you're ready, Pete, go ahead and put your seatbelt on and we'll get started.
All right, I'm going to close my video so that I can open the images.
Okay, Pete, let us know when you're ready.
Ready.
We'll go through them once and just introduce them, then we'll go back to number 1, and the floor will be yours.
And we're starting with novice, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Number 1, Bolt. Number 2, Chilean Castle. Number 3, Blackwater Seascape.
Are you sure you're a novice? Yeah.
Are these not novice?
They look like unlimited.
Thank you for letting me know. I'm sorry. Let me go back over here. Oh, yep, sure as heck we aren't. Let's try that again. Number 1, taking it all in.
Yes.
Number 2, overcoming obstacles. Number 3, Lake Maivatten, cold winter morning. Number 4, oyster shucking. Number 5, a winter's morning. Number 6, Sally loves the snow. Thank you for letting me know. Get back over here. Number 7, sunset over the dunes. Number 8, Paw Paw Tunnel. Number 9, Emmy. 10, Speed. 11, Sunset on the Dunes. 12, Winter. 13, View from Palace. 14, The Rising of the Sun. 15, Iris. 16, Winter IR. 17, Waiting. 18, White Hydrangea. 19, Dedaphos. Number 20, Calla Lily Curves. Number 21, Out of Time. Number 22, Spreading My Wings. Number 23, Kirka National Park. Number 24, Academy Bridge. Number 25, photographers gathered at the hot pots. Number 26, golden flower. Number 27, Alcazar arches. Number 28, look into my eyes. Number 29, preening swan. 30, missing the sunset. And that is it. I'm going to go back to number 1, and whenever you're ready.
All right, let me get back. There we are. So the first one is taking it all in. And I think the photographer had a wonderful idea with this. And I think that the image really shows that a lot of thought went into it. And I like the fact that the lines of the railing of the boat and the white streak on the floor of the boat both point to the man, who's obviously the central figure, the point that the photographer wants me to look at. Excellent choice of an image. A couple of things you might want to consider doing. I think that the man's face could use just a little bit of detail in the face. I like the idea that the body is in a silhouette and the cap, but I would like to see something about the features, and also the jet contrail in the sky. I would be very tempted to erase that, but very nice image. Next.
Would you like to keep that one in or take it out?
Let's leave that one in.
Number 1 is in, and number 2.
All right, let me move over. And this image is interesting. I think that I assume that's a wasp, something that I stay as far away from as I can. It's beautifully captured in terms of the focus, the sharpness. The thing that I found interesting about this image is that the legs and the antennae of the wasp are kind of replicated by the reeds that are all around it that it's crawling on. I found that quite interesting. I did, however, find that I was confused. The reeds are so bright, and the wasp is kind of disappearing into the reeds and the concrete or whatever it's lying on. It was a great idea, but to me it didn't quite work. I think we need something that's going to allow the wasp to stand out a bit more. So let's take that one out.
Number 2 is out. Number 3.
This is a wonderful image. I mean, it makes me feel like it's a place that I want to be. The photographer managed to capture a beautiful foreground and midground and background, and it all ties together perfectly. So I'm not quite sure what particular thing the photographer wants me to look at. Perhaps this church on the left-hand side. That's about the only thing that I found a bit confusing. A couple of things that I would consider doing if this were mine, and it's really a gorgeous image. I would brighten that building in the center, the one that has the green siding, mostly because you can't ignore that building, so you might as well make something of it. And on the right side of the mountain in the background, the slope, I think that it would be nice to have some of that beautiful light from the sky reflected on the snow. But a well-seen image and well taken. Let's leave that in.
3 is in. Number 4.
I love the man's face and the fact that we're seeing some activity. I think having some action in the photographs makes a lot of difference. And after looking at this for a while, I decided that he was opening oysters or something of that type, which is quite a challenge, but it fits the fact that he's wearing, well, whatever it is he's wearing. I found that although his face was quite appealing, and I think that the angle that the photographer had was interesting, the fact that his hands, which are key parts of this image, are blurry, bothered me a good bit. The other thing that I thought the photographer might consider is the right behind his head is a sign with some writing. And anytime there's writing, whether it's in English or some language you don't know, humans' eyes go straight to that, which kind of pulls you away from the center of focus. I think the center of interest should probably be the hands opening the oysters, but I can't quite see them as clearly as I would like. So let's take this one out.
Okay, number 4 is out. Number 5.
Wow, what a beautiful image. And this is an image that makes me just wish I were there. Uh, what a spectacular area. And the timing with the sunrise or sunset and that gorgeous stream that's zipping across the image really works well together. I think that the photographer did an incredible job capturing the trees without so much detail that they pull your eyes away from everything else. And the sun, or I assume that's the sun, gives a nice center of focus for this image. One thing that I debated was cropping on the left, but I decided that you really can't do that because you need the continuous stream uh, kind of flowing through the entire image, pulling your eye into every part of it. You might, however, consider brightening the left side just a bit. It feels a little heavy, but it's really a beautifully seen image and well done. Let's leave that in.
Number 5 is in. Number 6.
I've, I I have a dog, and I've enjoyed watching him get out in the snow and be amazed at what is this stuff. And that's exactly what I feel when I see this image. It's a joy for the dog to see something as unusual as this, and he's getting a big kick out of it. I think the focus, the sharpness of the dog itself, and not burning out the snow was well done. I have trouble with it a little bit because it's a bit confusing to my eye. It took a while before I saw the dog's eyes as distinct, and I'd really like to have them be the thing that my eyes immediately go to lock onto the dog's eyes. It's a nice image, but I think we'll take this one out.
Number 6 is out. Number 7.
So the sky in this is wonderful. I really like that. And I like the flow, particularly the lighter area on the sand going down from on the bottom from the left to the right. The the brightness on the dunes of the plants almost felt a bit oversaturated and even a bit bright. I wasn't quite sure what the photographer wanted me to look at, what he wanted me to, or she wanted me to really focus on, whether it was the lighthouse on the bottom right corner or the bright foliage on the left side of the image. I think that a couple of things could really bring this to rest. One would be, I would consider darkening the left side, the foliage, and perhaps reducing the saturation a bit. And then I would also consider brightening that wonderful white strip that runs across the very bottom of the image, since that can kind of pull my eye throughout the photograph. I like the way that the angle of the dune brings my eye down to the lighthouse. And the sky is fantastic. But I think I'll take that one out.
Number 7 is out. Number 8.
Some images just kind of scream leading lines, and this is one of those. It's almost impossible to first see this image and not have your eyes go directly to the light at the end of the tunnel. I think that's wonderful. The position of the photographer and the camera was just so well chosen. The image is sharp. The depth of field is excellent for what we have here. I don't know if it was done with focus stacking or a small aperture or what, but it was nicely done indeed. The curves of the ceiling of this tunnel really helped pull me into the image. Nicely done. Things that I would consider doing. I kept finding that every time I looked at this, my eyes went immediately to the bright light at the end of the tunnel, and I wanted there to be some activity, something going on. And I don't know what that would be, but I think the fact that we've got such wonderful curves in the tunnel help add a little bit of dynamic tension, which is great. And that's what I was kind of hoping for, was something alive and moving that I could look at as well. But it's so well done. I really like this. Let's leave it in.
Number 8 is in. Number 9.
A beautiful young woman. I think that her expression is so typical of today's people of that age. I think it makes a very nice portrait. It did bother me that she's sort of looking into the left side, which has a little texture, a little detail, but isn't really something for her to be looking at. I kept wishing that there were something that she was staring at that I could either see or wonder about. I also would consider cropping just a little bit on the right and maybe even flipping the image so that she's looking off to the right instead of to the left. Since we're in America reading from left to right, it's kind of more comfortable for us to see an image that seems to move in that direction. Well captured portrait, but I think we'll take this one out.
Number 9 is out. Number 10.
When I started talking about judging, I mentioned taking chances and being innovative and creative, and this checks all of those boxes. I thought this was wonderful. I especially like the fact that the photographer did a couple of things. One was the photographer positioned herself so that it's a sky in the background, which gives a feeling of height of the woman who's running, sliding down the tube. And I also love the fact that I can see the water rushing down the tube, and that the woman in the tube is blurry, which gives me a exciting feeling of motion. Very nicely done. In terms of things that I might consider doing, very, very little. I might consider slightly darkening the corners with a very, very slight vignette. But there's not a great deal that needs to happen to this image, except I think that the photographer should print it and hang it on their wall. So let's leave this in.
Number 10 is in. 11.
a very cool shot. The sky in this is just fantastic, and I like the vignette, the way the photographer darkened the top left side of the photograph. I would consider perhaps cropping a little bit off the bottom. It's a, a very heavy amount of darkness below the horse, and it almost detracts from the horse's silhouette. Also, there's a little bit of blue in the bottom right side of the bottom, which I don't think we need. I think the idea of this is wonderful. I think we do need the darkness below the horse, even though I would crop the dark area from about, oh, maybe half of the dark area based on the left side, leftmost side. You need that because you need an anchor to a photograph like this. And I like the idea that the horse is grazing and headed downhill. That really works. Let's leave this in.
11 is in. Number 12.
And I understand about winter. I assume that these are something like cotton plants that no longer have cotton, but now have snow instead. Great idea. The composition with the three pods is well thought out and well done. I do find that it bothers me a great deal that the snow in the centermost pod isn't sharp. I really want that to be sharp. That's where because it's the brightest area in the center or toward the center of the photograph and the closest to the camera, my eyes immediately latch on to the snow there. And when it's out of focus, that just keeps upsetting me. So it's a wonderful idea, really a great composition, but I think we'll take this one out.
12 is out. Number 13.
Frames in photographs are great. They really focus your attention. And this one does exactly that. I love the frame. I love the fact that the photographer showed a village. It looks very Italian, certainly European, and the sky is wonderful. I would angle if I had the opportunity to take this, I would focus more on the village, perhaps by moving the camera up a bit and reduce the amount of the sky. The sky is with the clouds is wonderful, but I don't think we need all of it. But it's such a well-seen image, and particularly the framing by the arc is just well done. So let's leave this in.
Okay, 13 is in. 14.
I think Rising of the Sun is an excellent title for this image. I think the detail that's shown in the bridge is just mesmerizing. I think it holds my attention, and usually for some photograph to hold my attention, I need something specific to focus on. But I kept finding that in this, my eyes just kept wandering around, particularly landing on the bridge and that beautiful sky. And that seemed to work just so nicely. I would have been interested in seeing this as a long exposure, at least long enough so that the waves and the water were smoothed out somewhat. I think we do need a little bit of texture there, but the main texture is the bridge and all of the pinnings of the bridge. Very well done. Let's leave this in.
14 is in. 15.
So this iris I think that the cropping on this is excellent. I couldn't suggest any changes whatsoever to that. I found that the most interesting part of the iris was the purple bud that's coming out. And I had a hard time focusing on that because it's almost lost in the black background. And particularly because of the brightness of the petals and the surrounding of that purple stem. So it's really close, and I love the idea and the closeness and the composition with the stem and the purple and the petal on the right gives a very nice composition with the three elements. But I think that the fact that the purple is almost lost in the background really hurts it a lot. So let's take this one out.
15 is out. 16.
Infrared is such a fascinating type of photography. Um, this image really took advantage of what infrared can do for you. The the trees are magnificent. I I think the snow on the trees and the snow on the ground really make this image. A couple of things that concern me. Um, One is the dark cloud on the top left corner. Because so much of the rest of the image is almost high key. The darkness up there keeps pulling my eyes away from the fantastic trees. I think having enough of the dark river below is fine because that just anchors the photograph. But I would either consider cropping so that you crop out that top left corner, or brightening it somehow would make a huge difference to a really well done infrared photograph. Let's leave this one in.
Number 16 is in. 17.
Wow. When I first saw this, I kept thinking of science fiction, like I'm gonna walk off into infinity somehow. Um, I love the idea that I can't see the delineation between the water and the sky. I think that that's what makes it feel like it's just something that is almost floating. Um, Very, very well seen and nicely done. Um, a couple of things you might consider doing. One is there on the kind of the bottom left, there's a reflection of the fishing pole that's right up above it. I find that a little bit distracting, as well as the reflection of the fishing pole on the closer on the right side, toward the lower part of the photograph. It would have been nice if the fisherman or fisherwoman who's at the end of the pier were a little more to the right, but that's not something that the photographer can control. I do like the fact that we have the fishing rod on the right side of the pier and the left side of the pier. Even though I'm not fond of their reflections, I think that they add a lot to the image. And the red jacket of the person on the left is very nice. It adds even more interest to a wonderful photograph. So let's leave this in.
17 is in. 18.
Hydrangeas are not that easy to photograph because the depth of field is tricky to get as well as this photographer did. I don't know if this was focus stacking or uh, some other technique with a tiny aperture, but the fact that the entire blossoms are in focus is quite amazing. I think that the photographer also did an outstanding job, not blowing out the whites, but in fact letting us see the the various veins in the flower petals. That was nicely done. The only thing that I found challenging about this is, well, a couple of things. I didn't know quite where to look. Um, it there was no point that really grabbed my interest, and it was a beautifully done flower picture, but there are so many flower pictures that it has to be different to really stand out. And that gets back to the uniqueness and innovative approach and taking a chance. I'm not sure quite what I would have done with this, but it's not something, even though it's very well done, it's not something that would hold my interest for long. So let's take this one out.
18 is out. 19.
Beautiful scene, just a gorgeous place. And this is a photograph that has the three elements that you always want in a landscape. You've got a very nice foreground with the planting in the front. You've got a fascinating midground with the waterfall, and then the background with the sky and the mountains. Very nicely done. I like this a lot. It has a strong feeling almost of motion because of the waterfall. It's this is not a waterfall that you would have wanted a particularly long exposure, because you want to almost feel the pounding of the water as it hits down below. And you lose that if you've got a long exposure with silky water. One thing that I would consider doing, I found that the darker clouds at the top were almost a bit too heavy. They were almost competing with the beautiful scene down below. There are some wonderful clouds just above the horizon that I would definitely keep in, but you might consider cropping a bit. I do like the use of color in this. The fact that it's monochrome except for the planting really does a nice job to make this a bit different. I mean, it's not just, oh, I took a picture of this waterfall. So very well done. Let's leave this in.
19 is in. 20.
Such a sensual curve, and the colors in this are spectacular. I find this quite nicely done. The the part that I find most appealing, and it's reflected in the title of the calla lily, is this wonderful curve that kind of is an S shape going throughout the image from the bottom all the way up to the top. The couple of things that I would suggest you consider, the portion of the lily on the top right, it's a concern that it's cut off. It's so close to being included as part of the blossom. If you're going to cut it off, I would cut it off much sooner. It feels like it's almost like it needs to be there because it's so close to being there. I also think that you could crop a little off the bottom. It feels very natural to have something like this beautiful S curve starting right at the corner and then moving up through the image. And by cropping it a bit, you could achieve that. But it's such a gorgeous picture, and I love the shape and the fact that the photographer saw this. So let's definitely keep this in.
20 is in. 21.
Such a feeling of, wow, the old time. Um, Things in this that just made me love the photograph. I mean, obviously the truck and the barn, but I think the barbed wire and the way the photographer handled the grasses and weeds that are growing up was very nicely done. even the fence on the left side of the barn added a great deal. This is another image, though, that I would make a couple of changes. I would, since to me, the real portion of the image that's interesting is the truck and the barn. I would consider a much tighter crop so that we eliminated a lot of the buildings, the white buildings on the right side. Perhaps leave in the old white bus, but crop some off of the right and even crop off of the bottom so that the truck and the barn stood out even more. I'd also consider trying to get some detail into the barn and the truck. The truck and the barn are both pretty dark, and since they're such an interesting part of the image, I think that it would be nice to be able to see even more of them. So it was very well seen. If you have an opportunity to go back and see this again, I strongly suggest you do it, or if you've got a high resolution image, try the cropping that I suggested. You might find that it's really an amazing thing. So let's take this one out.
21 is out. 22.
I looked at this one many times and tried to, there were parts of it that I found just wonderful and parts of it that I've found, oh, I don't really care for that. I love the bird in the top, the very top, with its wings spread, and how it's echoed with the what I assume is a pigeon coming off the top of the wall. I thought that those two and the cactus made a very nice composition. I couldn't understand why we wanted the entire wall as much as we have here. I would really consider cropping a lot of that wall. Not certainly not all of it, because you want some base to show the birds. But I would definitely crop some of it, perhaps as much as half based on the left-hand side, because I don't think that it adds a great deal to the image. You might also play a bit with the sky. I wouldn't make it terribly interesting because the interest is the birds and the cactus, but you might make it a little bit more dynamic. So let's take this one out.
22 is out. 23.
This was a great find. The waterfall is just a beautiful one, and this was an excellent choice with a long shutter time. I think the silkiness of the water in this and its brightness makes the image. This is yet another one where I would do a couple of things. I would crop in rather dramatically. I think that the beauty in this image is the water and the waterfall. And I find that the tree almost bisecting the photograph doesn't quite work for me. If you cropped so that the tree was very much on the left instead of closer to the center, I think that might help a great deal. The other thing that I would consider doing is the brightness of everything except the water keeps trying to compete for my eyes to focus on the water. The water is to me what this image is all about. You need context, so you definitely need some of the foliage and some of the trees and to show where we're looking. But the brightness of those other areas is a little overwhelming and keeps competing with that gorgeous waterfall. I would also consider cropping some on the bottom, perhaps to remove that plant right at the base of that tree in the center. And again, that's primarily because that bright green plant keeps competing for my eyes. So let's leave this one in for now. I really like what the photographer saw, but I think it could use some changes.
23 is in. 24.
And speaking of long exposure, I love what the photographer did with the water, and the leading lines of the pier are absolutely wonderful. They pull my eyes right back to that tower in the back, which I assume is the point of interest in this. A couple of things you might consider is it's a gorgeous photograph. I wouldn't make many changes at all, but the building on the far left is cut in half, and I don't think that it adds anything. I would consider cropping just to the right of that building. Um, I would also consider the right side of the photograph where there's a point in the building not far from the edge. I would crop in so that we didn't see the brighter part of that building on the right. And that combination of cropping would emphasize that tower in the back that the pier lines are pointing to. I would not crop a great deal any more than necessary because I think the water and the light shining off of the water is just wonderful. This was very wise to convert this to a monochrome. Nice image. Let's leave this in.
24 is in. 25.
This looks, the sky of this is just fantastic. The colors in it, the various shades, and the fact that I can see what appears to be steam or smoke coming up from the hot springs is excellent. I also love the red jacket. It needed something to balance and to kind of balance the sky and to pull my eyes back toward the bottom. It doesn't bother me for some reason that the person on the bottom right has their feet cut off. I don't miss that. What does bother me is that the person who's on the left side, to me, is one of the central figures in the image. And it's very hard to see the person. They almost blend into the background, which I keep finding disturbing. If I could see that person either by darkening them or lightening the background or something to give a bit more contrast there, I think it would help this image a great deal. I think the photographer did a beautiful job cropping the image so that he captured or she captured the sky, which is just phenomenal. So let's leave this in.
25 is in. 26.
The flower is nicely captured. One of the things that I mentioned back when we were talking about the hydrangea is that if you're going to do a flower photograph, it needs something that will make it stand out from the 13.3 trillion flower photographs that we've all seen. When I looked at this, the thing that almost made it stand out was the fact that the photographer included this wonderful stem, and the fact that the stem is sharp, and I can see a lot of texture in the stem. That I thought was very nicely done. I also like the fact that the flower and the stem are not centered in the photograph. One thing that did bother me a great deal was the color noise. There's a lot of noise in this image, and it in some photographs, the noise can actually be a positive thing, but I found it distracting in this particular photograph. And there are so many wonderful plugins and software products that can address that noise that I suggest the photographer play around with that and see what they think. So let's take this one out.
26 is out. 27.
So when I look at a photograph, one of the things that I always ask myself is, what does the photographer want me to look at? What's captivating about this image? And some of the things that make an item captivating, one is the brightness of a component of an image, and the other is the position or the color or the shape. And with all of those, to me, the wonderful inside of this building is excellent as a frame for the opening, for the door, the entry, and especially because of the color on the inside of the door, the blue or purple that's going to be different and pull my eyes toward it. So I like this image a lot. Something that I would really suggest the photographer do is put a really good vignette on this and darken all of the area except gradually darken so that the door and the brightness of the door really stands out. I might darken a bit also the light that's just to the left of the door, since I think that that kind of competes with the brightness of the door. It's not bad. I wouldn't try to get rid of it. I wouldn't crop it out, but I would darken it just a bit, but mostly darken the area that's framing that wonderful door. It's a very nicely seen image. I love the fact that the photographer saw this and framed that entry, and all of the arcs reinforce each other. So let's definitely leave this in.
Okay, 27 is in. 28.
And this is so well handled with the detail in the woman's hair and black jacket. That's not that easy to achieve. And I like the fact that she's looking directly at the camera. If if you're doing a photograph of a person, you either need to have them look directly at the camera so they're looking at you, the viewer, or looking at something that you can either see or imagine seeing in the photograph. And this is exactly what's happening. One of the things that concern me, the the eyes are really not quite sharp. They're a little soft focus, and I think that it would make such a huge difference if you um, got something like one of the Topaz products or Photoshop or even Lightroom and really made the catch lights in her eyes absolutely sharp as well as the rest of the eye. I think that would add a great deal to this. Um, let's take this one out.
28 is out. 29.
An interesting photograph. I like the title, the preening. When I first saw it, I wondered what in the world is this bird doing, and the title gave it away. The things that really grabbed my attention in this were the feathers, particularly the feathers on the left side. They're beautiful, and they aren't blown out. They have a huge amount of texture and interest, and they're pointing nicely at the orange or yellow beak of the bird. Um, it's that's very well seen. The flow of the bird's neck combined with the angle of the feathers on the left pointing toward the beak were well conceived. I wish I could see the bird's eye a little more, since all of us tend to look for the eye of any kind of animal in a photograph. I also found it, because I couldn't see the eye and because there was so much going on, difficult to decide what I should focus on. It was a bit confusing to me. It was well handled, particularly in post-processing, I think, but it kept hitting me as, what am I looking at? What am I supposed to look at? It's a picture that the longer I looked at it, the the more I wanted to look away because there was so much going on. So let's take this one out.
29 is out. Last one, 30.
And this, to me, told a very interesting story. The fact that the two humans were totally ignoring each other, but the dog on the right was the only one who actually acknowledged that there was something else going on. Very cool. The sky, the sunset in this was magnificent, and I love the fact that the dogs and the people are silhouetted. I think I would consider cropping a little bit off the bottom because you need an anchor, but if that's too much, it feels like it's going to pull your eyes down to it. I would crop some of that off the bottom, but definitely leave the rest. I think it's a very well captured image. I think the fact that the photographer left the key portions in silhouette and that I can see the leashes on the dogs was very nicely done. Let's leave this in.
Okay. Christine gave me a number of 17. Let me see if I have the exact same number on my side. I do. Do you have the same number as well?
I was not keeping count of the numbers.
Okay, no problem. All right, on screen I have all of the images that we have. We need to get these down to 7.
And we have 17.
And we have 17. We need to get rid of 10 of these. Or if you like images and you want to start placing, we'll let the other ones fall off the end.
Well,
However you'd like to handle.
Let me pull up your screen. I don't think I'm seeing your screen yet. There we go. Can you share your screen? I don't need, now that I've looked at the images on my screen, I can look at yours and see just those 17 and see what we can do with them.
I won't be able to share my screen because I'm already broadcasting from my screen.
Okay.
If you full up, let me go over to Zoom and just make sure that let's see if I can go over here and try to make sure I am. Nope, I am not. So you should be able to see my screen now.
Okay.
I hope. But through Zoom it should work. I just won't be able to share.
I can indeed.
Perfect.
Okay, so give me just a moment. Let me identify which ones to remove. So the third row, the first image, let's take that one out.
This one right here, that is 25 photographers gathered at the Hot Pots.
Yes.
25 is out.
And let's take out the, on the second row, the next to the last, the waterfall.
That one right there, 23
Yes.
Kirka National Park. That one is out.
Okay. And let's remove the very first image, the silhouette in the boat.
Number 1, taking it all in, is out.
And the infrared, the second image in the second row.
16, winter IR, is out.
Let's remove the last image in the first row. Yep.
Number 13, view from palace, is out.
And we need 4 more. Whew.
Correct.
Okay. Let's remove the very first image. I hate to do that. It's a gorgeous image.
Lake, number 3, Lake Mavatin, cold winter morning, is out.
And let's drop the last image with the dogs.
Number 10, excuse me, number 30, missing the sunset, is out.
And the horse, the fourth image on the first row.
Number 11, sunset on the dunes, is out.
Huh. And okay, let's drop the calla lily, first image on the second row.
Number 20, calla lily curves, is out.
And
We're down to 7. We need first through fourth and 3 honorable mention.
okay, let's do
27. But
the
I'm seeing I've got a little bit of a thing here.
Yeah, I only have 9 out.
You only have, but I also have online. Someone's asking about image number 27.
Yeah, mine at the beginning, 2 went out, and one should have gone out.
Okay. Oh, which one is that? I'm seeing a.
I can pull up 27.
Which one is 27?
I remember.
Alcazar
I don't see it in.
Arches. Yeah, I'm not sure why it's not showing up. I think Lightroom's doing something funky. So let's see.
There it is.
There it is. For some reason it was picked instead of not. Let's turn that off. Let's go back. Sorry for that. We need to add that one, that number 8 image into the mix on if you'd like to place it or not. And that is 27 Alcazar Arches.
I really like that. Let's take out the first image. Whoops, it just changed. The second image on the second row with the beautiful long exposure. That one.
24 Academy Bridge is out.
And for honorable mentions, the last image, the bridge,
Last image, 27 is going to be honorable mention for our record keepers.
correct. And that
This
also,
one here, number 14, Rising of the Sun, honorable mention.
right? The tunnel, second image on the top row.
That is number 8, Paw Tunnel. That's your last honorable mention.
And so fourth would be the first image on the second row. Second row, yeah, the waterfalls.
Foss, number 19, that's 4th place.
Third place will be the woman in the sliding in the tube.
Third is number 10, Speed.
Second place would be the very first image.
Second place is 5, A Winter's Morning.
And first place is the floating pier.
First place, number 17, Waiting. And I'm gonna figure out, I have subtitles in here. I need to go do this before I can move them around.
Sure.
Oh, and of course, now I gotta do all this fun stuff again. There we go. Okay, honorable mention, first, second, third, fourth. I think I have them done.
I think you do.
Perfect. Would you like to read the winners? Somebody?
Ron, do you want to read them?
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, honorable mentions. We'll start off with number 27, Alcazar Arches, and that's Kathleen Steele. Congratulations. All right, honorable mention to Paw Tunnel, number 8. And that's Beth Robbins, it looks like. Congratulations. Okay, number 14, The Rising of the Sun, honorable mention, and that would be Deborah Davis. Congratulations. Okay, now we move to 4th place, Floss, Beth Robbins. Congratulations on that. And 3rd place is Speed. The photographer is Deborah Davis. Number 2 is A Winter's Morning, and Tim Houston.
Hi, this was just taken in the morning, and Yellowstone just happened to catch some nice light. It's very nice.
It's a gorgeous image.
Okay, and our number 1 image tonight is Waiting, and the photographer is Deborah Davis. Okay, great. That's 3, okay. Excellent.
Okay. Fantastic work. Thank you so much for that, Pete. Let me get out of here and go back in. Pete, are you using Lightroom?
I am using Photoshop, actually.
Oh, interesting. Okay, because what we do, and then we don't mind having you look at the last image as long as you look at the original images on your screen.
And that's what I'm doing.
But the last images, yeah, what we usually do is we just toss them out in Lightroom, and then it makes it a little bit easier. But no problem.
Right.
All right, let me go into our unlimited 61 images.
All right. So with the novice category, I like to take a little more time. I will go a bit faster in this advanced category, but try to give you some good input. The first one, the bolt, I thought was very clever. I think that I've seen lots of close-ups and even macros that weren't nearly as nice as this. This one has the interest of the screw portion at the top, which I thought was a very nice addition, the right thing to leave in. It turned out that it's not an image that I would come back and want to look at over and over. That's kind of the only downside. It's well done, it's well conceived, but it's not one that would hold my interest for long. So let's take that one out.
Well, what we're going to do, Pete, is we're going to go through them all real quick.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so
I'm
think
sorry.
about that real quick. We're going to go through them real quick. We're going to give you the names, and maybe we'll change your mind on this one if.
All right, that's the plan.
But we'll go through here. So number 1 is Bolt.
Right.
Number 2, Chilean Castle. Number 3, Blackwater Seascape. Number 4 is Mid-Flight Mastery. Number 5, Soldier. Wow, there's no space in there. Soldier.
Arlington Cemetery.
Arlington National Cemetery. There we go.
Right.
Thank you. Number 6, White Sands. Number 7, Red Creek Mist. Number 8, Entryway. Number 9, Cagliari, Italy. Number 10, Cary Blast Furnace. (11) Winter Tree. (12) Big Jim. (13) Rapswell Cathedral. 14 Abandoned Lake House. 15 Mount Kirkefell in the distance. 16 Juvenile Trumpeter Swan Portrait. 17 Lunchtime. 18 The Hunter. 19 If It Itches. Number 20 Spruce Knob Lake Sunset. Number 21 Dances on Water. Number 22 City Marina. Number 23, Head Dip. (24) Celebrate. 25 Confluence. Number 26 Great Blue Heron with Fish. Number 27, Amphitheater. Number 28, Cowboy Closet. Number 29, Fight or Flight. Number 30, Got the Ring. (31) Train Station, Lammy, New Mexico. Number 32, female oriole having lunch. 33, Aztec doors. 34, Gothic color. 35, Peekaboo bee. 36, guard duty. 37, American laundry. 38, fishing gear. 39, Piper at dawn. 40, Johnson's wash tractor. 41, Gale. 42, searching for dinner. 43, psychedelic bike shop. 44, abstract wall art. 45, Bubbles the frog. 46, latch and lock. 47, mother's love. 48, where is that music coming from? 49, changing guard. 50, cookie thief. 51, over-the-top lights. 52, Ikebana in nature. 53, iridescent forager. 54, balloon glow. 55, Mr. Foster. 56, rock climber. 57, jellyfish. 58, 1943. 59, abandoned bus. 60, looking east. 61, Arlington National Cemetery. I believe that's it. I'm going to go all the way back to number 1 and leave it up to you, Pete.
Okay, so my comments on number 1, I think will hold, and it's a nice photograph, but I think we'll take this one out.
Number 1 is out. Number 2.
I like the feeling of this. I've been on a river cruise, and this kind of scene is something that I remember very fondly. The only parts of this that concern me are that the verticals of the building aren't vertical. If there were a different angle so that the keystone effect was not so noticeable, that would be fine. But anytime you're looking at something that is so obviously supposed to be purely vertical and it's almost there but not quite, it doesn't quite work for me. So let's take this one out.
Number 2 is out. Number 3.
I like this. The parts of this that I find particularly appealing are the composition of this is quite nice. The greenery on the left and the island in the distance and the slight area on the right balance quite nicely. The sky is a little oversaturated, I think. It's often if you select the sky and increase the dehaze or play with the curves, you end up with a more saturated area. And I suspect that may have happened with this one. A very nice photograph, but I think we'll take it out.
Number 3 is out. Number 4.
An incredible capture. I love the fact that the photographer managed to get the timing so perfect on this. The wave, the action, it's an exciting photograph. The couple of things you might want to consider, I think the surfer's face could be brightened a bit, since that's where my attention is going to ultimately go, just because of the fact human natures tend to have people look at faces. I think the position of the surfer is excellent. I'm not sure that it's perfectly sharp, particularly in the face and hair. That's probably a motion issue, but I like this a lot and think the photographer did an outstanding job. Let's leave this in.
Number 4 is in. Number 5.
I love going to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldiers and seeing the honor guards. It's a fascinating area. If anyone hasn't been there, I really encourage you to do it. And this is a very typical photograph of what you would see there, and it's well captured. I think including the bayonet and the entire person was well done. It's I'm a little concerned about, again, the verticals, particularly the railing behind the soldier not being vertical, and in fact even the soldier seems to be leaning a bit toward the left side. That does bother me some, so let's take this one out.
Number 5 is out. Number 6.
Spectacular and not an easy image to capture. I think the handling of the bright sand was just gorgeously done. I actually, when I looked at this, I played with a number of possibilities and think that this, to me, the portions of this that are the most fascinating are the undulating white dunes, and the portion at the bottom, the almost tan sand color portion. You need that, but not so much of it, because I think that the interesting portion of the image is the white. So I would actually crop a great deal off the bottom, leave enough so that you have a base for the photograph, but make it almost a panorama with the white dunes being the highlight. Very well done. Let's leave this in.
6 is in. Number 7.
This is one that I thought was really well seen. The cloud, whether it's, I couldn't tell if it was just oversaturated or a phenomena of nature, but this is another one that I would consider cropping some of that foliage at the very bottom. And the reason for that is that if you left the red foliage that's kind of in the center, it almost replicates that cloud. It would be a very nice composition and a nice balance. I like the fog in the background and how it separates the two brighter areas. Let's leave this one in.
Number 7 is in. Number 8.
Beautifully framed and a spectacular photograph. debated about should the people be there and decided, yes, I think they really need to be for scale. You wouldn't appreciate how large this was without them being present. I think that if the contrast of the building were increased dramatically, it would actually hurt the image. I love the softness and the paleness of the image and how it's framed by the stark and dark frame. Very nicely done. Let's leave this in.
Number 8 is in. Number 9.
Interesting. And I think the scene is one that I can identify with. It's one that I almost think I've seen before in live view. But I found that although I like the frame of the arc of the building or bridge or whatever we're looking through is excellent. I think there's too much at the top. I want to see more of the village. And part of it is also that I want to see the village and not quite so much sky. It's not an interesting sky. If the photographer were able to get up a bit higher so that she was angling down and including more of the village and a bit less of the sky, I think it would be quite an image. But let's take this one out.
Number 9 is out. 10.
I debated about this. It appears that the photographer has applied a texture, which is a great idea. I found that to me the texture was a little heavy, and I might have considered even a sepia toning of this to add to a light texture to give it the real feeling of age that we're obviously looking at. It's a fascinating area, and if you're able to go back, I would suggest doing that and trying a slightly less texture and perhaps seeing how you like a tone that gives it the feeling of antiquity. So let's take this one out.
10 is out. Number 11.
A nice capture, quite a tree. I did appreciate the stark vignette on this. I thought that was a good idea because you really need to pull the viewer's eyes into that tree. I didn't find the tree something that made me want to come back and look at it over and over. It was interesting the first time, but really didn't have any portion that held my interest for long. I also would like to have been able to see the very top of the tree. I think that would have helped a great deal. So let's take this one out.
Number 11 is out. Number 12.
I love portraits, and this guy is obviously a character. I didn't find it to be one that was very unusual. I think that you saw an interesting person, and it almost seems like somebody who would be at a tourist attraction or even a model. But that didn't quite seem to have more interest than perhaps just a monochrome image of him. I think the image needs to be his face and his hair and his holster and bullet belt, and the background kind of pulls my eye away because of its brightness. So let's take this one out.
12 is out. 13.
The more I looked at this, the more I saw. I think the fact that the obvious focal point of this is the crucifixion that's hanging from the ceiling. And then if you notice the windows, the tall vertical windows on the side, because of their brightness, pull your eyes in that direction, and then you see the other crucifix that's right between the windows, which I found very nice in terms of a not quite a composition, but a point of interest. So this had a lot going for it. Let's leave this one in.
13 is in. 14.
I studied this for a while and couldn't quite decide what I thought of it. I think the house itself was something that I kept wanting to focus on. But the foreground was something that the photographer obviously thought was extremely important. And it's an interesting foreground, but not something that I want to continue looking at. It just didn't hold my attention long. I think that this is a case of perhaps darkening the foreground, perhaps brightening the house. I think the forest around and behind the house is excellent. But I think we'll take this one out.
14 is out. 15.
I couldn't quite decide what was going on here. It's obvious that the photographer did not intend to have this be a perfectly sharp, typical photograph. I didn't know if it was done with filters or some sort of camera motion. It was quite interesting, particularly because the foreground and the mountain behind it and the sky seemed to balance so well. I like that part, even though the lack of focus left me without something to lock my eyes onto. But it's quite interesting, and it's an experimental idea. So let's leave this in.
15 is in. 16.
Wow, this was really nicely done. The wings pointing up toward the beautiful head, and the composition, the spacing, the cropping of this was excellent. I like being able to see the eye as sharply as we can. And the photographer really handled the background beautifully. I like the darkness of the background, and yet it's got texture and a bit of color that's balancing, complementing the color of the bird. Let's leave this in.
16 is in. 17.
Interesting shot. It's not that easy to get a photograph of this type. I love the fact that the eye is so prominent and so sharp. I took a while before I even noticed the fish in the claws. I think to me the photograph was the wings and the head of the bird. The cropping was very nicely done. You really don't want to have all of the wings in the photograph because that would diminish the head and the eyes so much. And yet the tail feathers are important. They kind of pull your eye back toward the fish so that you can see what the title is referring to. Let's leave this one in.
17 is in. 18.
Very nice. Once again, we've got the eye in sharp focus and quite prominent in the image. I found the cropping a little tight on the right side. I like to have a little space in front of something that's appearing to move or ready to move in one direction. It's nice to give them a little room to move into. But the depth of field is really well handled. The bird itself is sharp and well contained in the image. Let's leave this one in.
18 is in. 19.
I struggled with this one a bit. It took a while before I actually comprehended what I was completely looking at. The position of the bird was, well, it itches, and I can understand what it's doing, but it wasn't at all obvious initially. I found that it was hard for me to actually continue to focus on the bird. I'd like a little more detail, particularly in the face. It's well framed, well cropped, but I think we'll take this one out.
19 is out. Number 20.
Nice capture. The portions of this that I find particularly appealing, I love the fact that we've got a strong foreground and an interesting midground with the water, and then the far end of the photograph with the sun and the sky. That was well done. It feels a little strong in contrast to me. I found the dark areas, particularly in the midground, the hills that come down to sort of a V. I think they could use a bit more detail, and I might consider cropping just a little bit of the real dark area on the very bottom. It's nice to have that dark area, but not quite so much. I don't think that adds a great deal to the image. So let's take this one out.
20 is out. 21.
Beautiful capture. I think the position of the bird, the wings, the fact that we're seeing the feet in causing a splash in the water is really outstanding. I like this a lot. I think the color and particularly the light in this was so well handled. A couple of things you might consider. This is another one that I would consider cropping a little bit on the bottom. I realized that the photographer was trying to save the reflection, which I think you do need a bit of the reflection, but since the real point of interest is the bird itself, I think the reflection, that much of it isn't quite necessary. There are also a couple of white areas on the upper right side in front of the bird that I would consider removing. But it's really a spectacular photograph, and the timing was just absolutely perfect. Let's leave this in.
21 is in. 22.
Interesting. Night photography is always challenging, and the photographer did a really good job. The lighting in this is just what it should be. I mean, it's showing an active, vibrant village with the lights, and I like the various colors of the lights. The photographer handled that exceptionally well. I'm not sure exactly what I'm supposed to be focused on in this. I would consider removing the building on the far left, the one with the blue light. I think that the real image is the heart of the village and the reflections in the water. But it's nicely captured, beautifully processed. The exposure was absolutely right on. Let's leave this in.
22 is in. 23.
It was amusing. I thought that this was a clever idea. I didn't find that it held my attention very long after I got an initial smile out of seeing it. The action is obvious, but it didn't really give me much of an impact, not much of an emotion, other than perhaps thinking, "Oh, that's kind of fun." So let's take this one out.
23 is out. 24.
Fireworks are so challenging to really do well, and this photographer did quite well with this. I think that the composition of this with the magenta fireworks on the top right and top left are really gorgeous, and the fact that we've got the brighter white lights kind of anchoring it all works nicely. Fireworks also are so common that you have to do something fairly unusual to have a photograph stand out. But this was well taken, and I do like the composition with the colors. So let's leave this in.
24 is in. 25.
Very clever. And it when you first see this image, at least for me, it was, what am I looking at? And then when I realized what I was looking at, it was mesmerizing. I I found that the flags, particularly with their writing, which of course I couldn't understand, um, really gave such a fantastic context to this wonderful river and mountain scene. Um, I might not have included quite so many of much of the flags. I might have uh, focused in a little closer, but I understand what the photographer was doing, and I totally applaud it. So let's leave this in.
25 is in. 26.
A well-seen fish capture, so to speak. Um, I like the fact that the photographer managed to get this particular shot. It's not always easy to see something like this. The bird is nicely positioned in the photograph, although I could see perhaps adding a little more room in front of the bird for the same reason I mentioned before. One other thing that I would consider, um, the background, the water, is a little brighter than I think it needs to be. I think that if the water were toned down, um, it would let the bird and the fish stand out a great deal more. You might consider trying that. It would be pretty straightforward in Lightroom or Photoshop. Let's take this one out.
26 is out. 27.
And can't remember. I think we're back at Arlington. But yes, this type of architecture is quite interesting to photograph. I think that a couple of things would be really nice in this. One is that this would be an image that I would love to take and convert to black and white and go with a fine art feeling to it, to really darken a lot of the photograph and play with lighting just key portions of it. I think that would really emphasize the architecture and make a very dramatic photograph. I'd suggest trying that. I think that it would be both fun and rewarding to see what you could come up with. As it is, it's a nice photograph, but it's not one that I find is going to hold my interest long. This would be one that if there were a person, maybe a soldier, somewhere down walking on the path, it would enhance this a great deal. But I still think that the real potential here is to go with a fine art photograph with monochrome with very careful lighting. So let's take this one out.
27 is out. 28.
Yeah, this was great. Very nicely handled. When I first saw it, the thing that hit me was, wow, cowboy. And then I saw the title, and sure enough, cowboy. The colors, the background, everything about this I found quite appealing. I like the way it's cropped. I might give just a touch more on the two sides, but I don't think that that's a big deal. I don't think that it's hurt at all by the darkness below and above the boots, and I think that the background of the boots with the color really kind of adds a great deal of interest and almost excitement to the photograph. Let's leave this one in.
28 is in. 29.
Nicely captured. Perfect timing on this. The birds are just perfectly posed for this image. I like the fact that the bird on the left is apparently just taking off or just landing. The feet aren't quite touching the bottom. I did find that in this case, the water, the brightness of the water kept pulling my eyes, competing with the birds, which were so spectacular. I'd suggest trying to darken the water and perhaps even give it a slight blue tint, so that I think that color would balance nicely with the color of the birds and the foliage in the image. But it's really well seen and well captured. Let's leave this in.
29 is in. 30.
Jousting is such an exciting sport, and I've taken photographs similar to this, and I realize how difficult it is to get it just the way this photographer did. It was perfectly timed. The fact that he's actually going to capture the ring in this case is very obvious, so it tells a nice story. The amount of the horse that's shown, I think, is perfect. You really want the focus to be on the ring and the man's face and intensity. So quite nicely done. Let's leave this in.
Number 30 is in. 31.
And welcome indeed. This was interesting. The fact that we're seeing a balance between what I assume is a train and the building, kind of bridged by the welcome sign was quite clever. I thought that the four barrels at the bottom kind of offset the welcome sign and helped the composition a good bit. It's not an image that I found that I wanted to keep coming back to look at. However, I think that it felt a little static to me. I think that if there were something happening in this image, it would make much more interesting thing to come back and look at each time. So let's take this one out.
31 is out. 32.
The position and getting this image was obviously challenging. It bothers me that the bird's head and in fact its back and the forward portion of its wings aren't quite sharp. That I found very distracting. I like the fact that the flower it's eating from is sharp and the foliage around it is sharp, but I really think the bird has to be tack sharp in an image like this. The foliage could have been less sharp and it would have worked fine because the center of interest is obviously the bird and the flower. So let's take this one out.
32 is out. Let me go over here, out, and 33.
Yeah, I love the multiple frames in this. And they immediately pull your eyes straight back toward the person in the past the last doorway. Um, very nicely seen. I don't know if it was set up so that the person was there or not, and that doesn't really matter. I think that it was a clever idea, and if it wasn't an idea, but it was just a coincidence, it was well seen. Um, the doorways are interesting, but my focal point, of course, is the individual. This is one that because I would want the individual to be a bit more prominent, I would definitely crop this some, particularly on the bottom. I think that if you cropped out a lot of the base of this image, and even a little bit on the sides and maybe a touch on the top, so that the doorways were far more prominent, would bring the individual closer, would be a big plus. But it was very nicely seen, and I think the depth of field is well handled. Let's leave this in.
33 is in. 34.
When I first saw this, I thought I was looking at stained glass. Such a spectacular tree outside the window, and it's obviously a church window, so stained glass would have been appropriate. So it almost comes across that way. It's interesting, but to me feels almost static. I like it because I love the colors and I love the shapes in the window itself, but it's not something that's going to hold my attention for long. It the reds are wonderful, but we need something going on back in the reds, not just the reds scattered across the window, I think. So let's take this one out.
34 is out. 35.
Very cool. Um, I don't know exactly how you took this one, but it's not one that I would want to get that close. I think that it's an original position to capture this insect. Um, the you might consider a vignette to even further draw the attention to the bee. And the part of the reason for that is that there's so much bright area behind the bee that it's hard to continue to focus just on the bee. My eye keeps getting pulled away from it, which is a shame because it's such a clever image and well taken. Let's leave this one in.
35 is in. 36.
And I I like this. There's so many possible captions and titles for this image. It could be something like, "I did not say that," but the idea of guard duty was also quite appropriate. I think the position of the birds, often when you only have two key images, it doesn't feel quite right. As we all know, odd numbers of components are more natural, but this one really does work with just the two birds. And I love the fact that they're so symmetric. My first thought was that the photographer had done the mirror flipping of the image. But then after examination, I realized no, it was just what was there at the time. And the reflections in the water are nicely handled. The amount of reflection, the cropping of the birds was right on target. Let's leave this in.
36 is in. 37.
And I thought that the selective color in this was a very good idea. Um, I I think if it didn't have that, one would find it to be not a particularly interesting image, but the color draws your eye right to the clothesline, and the fact that it feels like old times, it, it makes it quite appropriate. I I wasn't fond of the line. It's kind of in the middle of the image. There's a pole that goes up with a power line or a telephone line that I found seemed to be distracting, primarily because it was so close to the red laundry. Um, a very clever idea, and I think that it's worth pursuing, but I think we'll take it out as it stands right now.
37 is out. 38.
Well, I love fishing, but I haven't been able to go for a long time, so this was a touch of nostalgia. It's interesting. It's, however, a case of I'm not sure where to look. I found that there's so much in this image that it's almost confusing. I needed something to lock my eyes onto, and from there, then gradually explore the rest of the photograph. And I couldn't find anything that said start here. Um, so it's a fascinating area, an area that I personally identify with, but I think we'll take it out for the reasons I mentioned.
Okay, 38 is out. 39.
A very nice photograph of the bird. I think it's when I saw it, it's made me think of the seashore, and I like that feeling a great deal. I think the handling of the water and the sand or whatever the land is that it's running on was well done. It's again a case of whether it's selective color or just happened to be that way, was quite fortuitous. I think the fact that the bird is displaying the virtually the only color in the photograph really makes it clear that that's where my eyes are going to go. So it's very nicely done that way. Let's leave this in.
39 is in. 40.
Ah, I love this. Such a wonderful balance and such a wonderful position for the camera. The the fact that we're looking up at this old tractor uh, is really outstanding. And the composition with the harrow behind the camera sort of in the distance and the barbed wire coming out from the right, and then something, the trees on the far right kind of giving a place that's going to stop my eyes and send them back to that gorgeous tractor is wonderful. The um, the brightness of some of the grasses you might want to consider darkening a little bit. And I don't think I would do anything different with the sky. It has enough interest, a little bit of drama, but not so much that it's detracting from the tractor itself. Let's leave this in.
40 is in. Number 41.
Ah, yes, Gale. Um, when I first saw this, I thought maybe it was sinking. It seemed so low in the water, uh, and it's an interesting idea that we've got this boat. I couldn't quite decide what kind of boat it was. It didn't look like a ferry. Um, I like the idea of having the person in the front of the boat. Uh, that's where my eyes ended up going. Um, I I couldn't find anything that made me excited though. The image was a little bit like a documentary of the boat instead of having a great deal of activity or motion or any particular portion of interest. So let's take this one out.
41 is out. 42.
Ah, yes, another. And this time it's the reflection that I thought was really nicely done. Without the reflection, it would have been a beautiful bird picture. With the reflection, it's got a lot more interest and actually feels like there's some depth to the photograph. I'm not sure, if it had a shell in its mouth or something, it would be even more interesting. But as it is, I like it a great deal. Let's leave it in.
42 is in. 43.
The psychedelic bike shop. Quite a spectacular bike shop. I have no idea if this is psychedelic because of post-processing or if there actually is a bike shop like this. But it's a fantastic, fascinating image. The colors in this are fluorescent. The bike stands out even though there are other bright colors that are the same, which I found a little bit amazing. I think it's because the shape of the bike is so recognizable that your eyes kind of make it into a bike, even though it's kind of blends in color-wise to what's behind it. I wasn't convinced that this was something that I would want to hang on my wall or come back and look at over and over. It didn't have it was static in the sense that it didn't have anything going on. It was an interesting shot of beautiful and vibrant colors on a bicycle, and well handled, but needed something to make it a bit more exciting. So let's take this one out.
43 is out. 44.
Abstracts are challenging, and this one is well handled. The feeling I had of this when I saw it was almost one of flames coming up from below. I like the symmetry of the image, the fact that the photographer in this case does look like he or she did a mirror flip. That works in this case. I find it fairly exciting because of all of the implied motion. I'd like to have something. This would be a case that it would be interesting to play with just a touch of color somewhere in the image, not necessarily in the center, to give just a touch that's not symmetric, that would add a lot of interest. But as it is, as an abstract, it's very nicely done. Let's leave it in.
44 is in. 45.
Our frog with the reflected eye. Fascinating. I thought the eye was what this photograph was all about, and it really is. The frog is pretty well captured, I think. I think the one part that concerned me a little bit is the very front of the frog, the nose, didn't seem quite sharp. And there did seem to be a great deal of noise in this image. I think that it would be beneficial to do some denoise with one of the software products, and perhaps even remove a little bit of the image from above the frog I think the frog and its reflection could make a nice image without all of the water above it. Let's take this one out.
45 is out. 46.
The latch and lock is, I love doors and pictures of doors, and the hinges and the hardware are excellent. And this is really a good example of that. Uh, the composition of this with the latch up at the top left and the angle of the boards pointing to the latch, the diagonal board and the horizontal board, bring my eye straight to the latch. And then as I look down and see the lock hanging from it, it adds further interest. At first, I wasn't sure if there was a lot of noise in the image, and I think perhaps there is, but it perhaps also is just texture of the latch and the lock. I think that this would not work well as a color image, because I think the colors would distract from the wonderful lighting that the photographer has managed. Let's leave this in.
46 is in. 47.
Yeah, such a wonderful expression on the mother. It's kind of like, here we go again. But it's such a great capture. I don't know if this was an image that took a long time to take. I could certainly believe that, to wait for the right moment. But the baby gorilla is very well positioned. And the thing that I find particularly attractive about this is that the face of the mother is so perfectly lit that it immediately grabs my attention. And I think that's where my eyes want to start when I start exploring this photograph. Nicely done. Let's leave this in.
47 is in. 48.
Ah, yes. Very interesting, very clever. I don't know where the photographer saw this, but I'm glad the photographer did see it. The various horns, and the light bulbs I found interesting, but the designs on the rafters were fascinating. I found the whole thing to be an area that when I first saw it, I thought, wow, I'd love to go there. It had the feeling of being happy and exciting. Um, I I'm not sure what I should look at first in this. It kind of is borderline on being a little confusing, but I like all the horns so much that I decided that as a composite, it works quite nicely. Now the background, particularly on the left middle, looks like we have what might be JPEG artifacts, which I found a bit distracting. Uh, I'm not sure where those are from, but I also found that several of the horns seem to have a bit of a halo. So it almost looks like this was perhaps over processed a bit, maybe over sharpened. It's hard to tell. And those two things, the JPEG artifacts and the halos, did bother me enough that I think we'll take this out.
Okay, that is number 48 is out. Number 49.
The honor guards. When I first saw this, I didn't like the people behind the guards. But then I decided, well, that's actually providing context. And the thing that I really do like is the angle of the two rifles. I thought that the photographer did a really wonderful job and a great idea of having that V from the rifles kind of pulling you back down to the soldiers. Couple of things that I would like to have seen is I found that the back of the neck of the closest soldier seemed to be blown out, as did the collar of the soldier that's far away from us. I also wish that I could see both eyes or sunglasses of the far soldier. I think that would give me something to really lock my eyes into. So it's really a nice, it has a lot of nice ideas in it. But I think we will take this one out.
49 is out. 50.
Interesting bird and interesting whatever it is that it's eating. The apparently a cookie of some type. The colors of the bird are fascinating. I think that the angle of the photograph is challenging, but I think the photographer made the most of it with the cropping that was chosen. The fact that we've got the bird so close to the very bright cookie and the bird itself being very bright and that we can see a very sharp eye works quite nicely. I I think I debated about this one for quite a while because it's one that's dynamic but didn't feel quite natural for some reason. Um, but I like it and I like what the photographer did with it. So let's leave this one in.
50 is in. 51.
Ah, yes, the interesting spherical image, which seems to be a reflection of something that's fascinating, perhaps a toy shop or something of that nature. The colors in this are really spectacular. The the fact that we're seeing it as a sphere, I found really added a great deal to the interest. It was something that if it were just shot straight on instead of as a reflection in a mirror or whatever we're seeing here, I think that it would be far less intriguing. As it is, it's interesting, and I find that it's one that I keep coming back to look at and see more each time I do look. My eyes initially went to the figure that almost looks like it might be Santa Claus in the center of the sphere. And then quickly they went to the bright eyes of the guards on the right side. And that worked because then I continued to start looking around the rest of the image. So let's leave this one in.
51 is in. 52.
Beautiful flowers and lily pads. This is one that I think the image is the lily and the red lily pad, and I would severely crop this so that you eliminated, oh, maybe the upper third of the lily pad that's right behind the white lily, and then severely crop it on the right. Maybe even make this a square. I think the idea of showing the reflection of the sky is a good one, but I don't think we need so much of it. We've got enough of it down below. Um, it's such a clear and sharp image and interesting because of the colors and the composition of the flower and the lily pad that I'm intrigued by it. I also like the water that's on the floating lily pad right beyond the flower. But again, I would play with cropping this rather dramatically, and I think that then the right thing to do would be to print it and hang it. It's really nicely done. Let's leave this in.
52 is in. 53.
Quite a strange insect. I kept looking at this and wondering if this was something created by the photographer in post-processing, or if such an insect exists, in which case I probably won't ever sleep again. The colors and the sharpness of the insect are fascinating. The foliage or petals, flowers, the yellow floating in the purple is also quite interesting. I did find that the fact that the insect is the head and the body are so vibrantly green, and also a bit of very, very bright yellow, that the green light right below the insect behind the wings, I found a bit distracting. I would definitely consider darkening that, or significantly reducing the brightness. Also, the yellow, which looks like perhaps pollen on the legs of the insect, looks like it might be blown out a bit. But it's such a fascinating image and so creative that I definitely think we should keep it in.
53 is in. 54.
There are so many images of hot air balloons that it's hard to find one that stands out as unique. And the photographer in this case managed to do exactly that. I think the fact that the gondola with the people is so close to the bottom actually gives a feeling of we're headed up, that it just felt right when I saw it. And the glow of the balloon, and the wonderful lines coming through the balloon pointing back down toward the gondola and the people, was very nicely done. Even including the silhouetted leaves and branches, I thought added a great deal to the image. Let's keep this one in.
54 is in. 55.
I love meaningful and thoughtful portraits, and this one is just captivating. It's almost impossible for me to look at this and not stare back at those sharp, sharp eyes and almost penetrating eyes. I think the photographer did just an outstanding job with both the lighting, the tones, and the sharpness of the eyes, and the cropping. I think eliminating most of the hair and cropping just below the wrist so that we see the full wrist was exactly what needed to be done. But to me, the most impressive part is the lighting and the toning. This definitely is best as a monochrome, and I think it was just the right decision to do that. Let's leave this in.
55 is in. 56.
Every time I see these rock climbers, I'm astounded that people can actually do that. But that's probably because of my age. But this one was a interesting capture. It not only told a story, but it was exciting in sort of a frightening way. I think every time I see a rock climber, the first thing I look at after I look at the person's face is what kind of support is it going to have if he slips. And I think the photographer did a nice job showing exactly that. I think also including that much of the cliff was a good idea. It in this case, even though the subject is clearly the climber and his paraphernalia, you need to have a feeling of he's small in comparison to what he's trying to climb. And I think that including this much of the cliff conveys that feeling very nicely. I would like to see a little more contrast, I think, in the image. It's not at all bad, but it feels just a little bit flat for what we're looking at. I think there's a lot of three-dimensionality in this, particularly when you see the man's left arm on the right side of the image kind of disappearing behind the rock. It's obviously quite 3D. I think a little more contrast might show that, but it's really a nicely done image and well thought out. So let's leave this in.
56 is in. 57.
Yeah, fascinating. I think jellyfish are just, wow, so amazing. And it's not just the color, it's all of the texture, the shape, um, and the photographer in this case used the lighting uh, on the jellyfish just perfectly. I think having the black background and the slightly out of focus, I guess they're called tentacles on the far right, gives it a bit of feeling of depth, which I find quite appealing. Um, the colors in this are gorgeous, and the sharpness is really perfect. So let's keep this in.
57 is in. 58.
And 1943. Wow. And it reminds me of some of my parents' yearbooks from school, and they had that kind of graininess, which I find quite interesting. I also liked what the photographer did. I assume it's what the photographer did and not what was in the yearbook, but to have the pictures kind of between the four main pictures, to have three rows of small pictures behind kind of gave a feeling of we aren't just looking at these four people, but we're looking at a culture, an entire area of time. Um, the graininess is really exactly what this image needed. Very cleverly done. Let's leave it in.
58 is in. 59.
Yeah, I like this. The colors in this are pleasing. The sky is beautifully handled. The fact that we have this wonderful old bus and the barn with some color and a lot of texture, and then that brilliant tree. The three of them really give a nice balance. I would, in fact, I don't think you need all of the tree. I think that I would want to focus even more on the bus, and the tree is slightly cut off on the left. I wouldn't hesitate to go ahead and cut off more on the left so that the bus and the barn are even more prominent. But it's a gorgeous image as it stands. Let's leave it in.
59 is in. 60.
So images should tell stories in many cases, and this one certainly does. And it's hard not to have an emotional feel when you see this. And the fact that the photographer managed to get only the two people's footprints in the sand, I thought was really excellent. I also like the handling of the sky. It's obviously got some gorgeous color, and yet it doesn't detract from from the man and the child. I think that the position of the man and the child is well offset by the, even though it's small, it's the boat out on the horizon. I think that that gives a reasonable balance, that and the sky itself. So I like this a lot. Let's leave this in.
60 is in. 61.
And Arlington is such a emotional place. The thing that attracted me when I saw this image was the branches of this tree somehow seemed to be pulling everything together and kind of balance the tombstones somehow. The tombstones always, when I go to Arlington, always feel like I'm looking at something that's branching out almost forever. And this tree kind of captures that feeling. I thought that was very nice, very nice. I don't know that it's an image that I would find that I wanted to continue looking at over and over. It was quite impressive when I first saw it and realized what I was looking at. But once I did that, it was kind of like, okay, and there it is again. So it's really clever and well thought out, but I think we will take it out for that reason.
Okay, 61 is out. That is the end of the images. Let's get, let's figure out how many we all have total. I'm showing 36.
Yes.
Everybody else is giving me a thumbs up. So the problem is we need to get down to 10, first through fourth, and 6 honorable mentions.
Okay. I'll go.
How would you like to do this?
Why don't I just identify the ones that will be, that we can take out? And, okay. The top row, third image from the left, let's take out.
That one there?
Yes.
Number 7, Red Creek Mist.
The top image, top line, the fourth image from the left.
That one?
Yes.
13, Rapswell Cathedral.
And once again, the top line, the fourth image from the left. Yep.
That is 15 Mount something in the distance. Okay.
Let's remove the fireworks, the top row far right.
That is number 24, Celebrate.
Let's remove the top row, the fifth one from the left, the eagle. Yep.
Number 17, Lunchtime.
And let's remove the second row, the sixth one from the left, the bird. Yep.
39, Piper at Dawn, out.
And the third row, the second from the left.
50, Cookie Thief.
Yep. And let's drop out number 27, the third row far right. Yep.
Number 58, title is 1943. And anytime you feel like you want to, instead of just pulling all these out, you like to start placing, we can also do that as well. Whatever, however you would like to do it.
Well, I'm placing mentally as I'm pulling out. So
No problem.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we've got about half to go. The second row, second image, the two birds.
29, fight or flight.
Yep. Let's do the second row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Number 7. Number 15, the Piper.
That is 42, searching for dinner.
And let's do the top row, number 7. The nighttime, yes.
22, city marina.
And also top row, number 8.
28,
Boots.
cowboy closet.
And let's drop the sphere number 16, second row, the last one on the right.
That is 51, over the top lights.
And number 5 on the top row.
That is 18, the hunter.
And let's drop number 16, the last one on the second row.
53, iridescent forager.
And let's drop the abstract, number 12, on the second row. Yeah.
44, abstract office wall.
And number 9, the second one from the left on the second row.
Peekaboo bee. 35.
And number 6 on the first row.
25, confluence.
And number 8 on the second row.
36, guard duty.
And the very first image, the surfer.
Number 4, mid-flight mastery.
And the number 8, first one on the second row.
I just moved it, sorry. Was it number 8, the lock?
Yes.
Okay, 46, latch and lock.
And the climber, the last one on the second row.
56, rock climber.
And number 5, the jouster, not jouster. Yeah, that
Number
one.
30, got the ring.
Right. And number 5 on the first row.
33, Aztec door.
And number 6 on the first row.
Number 47, mother's love.
And once again, number 6 on the first row. 52,
52, Ikebana in nature. 53, Ikebana in nature. 54,
And does that do it?
Yes, it does.
All right. Okay, so for honorable mentions, the first two, actually, on the first row.
Honorable mention number 6, Winter Sands, and number 8, Entryway.
And an honorable mention of the number 6, that one.
57, Jellyfish, honorable mention.
And number 9, are those in there? I thought we had.
Yes,
Oh, those are 2
9
honorable mentions.
Yes, I'm putting them at the end.
Oh, okay. Let's do number 6 as an honorable mention.
That is 59, Abandoned Bus is honorable mention.
And number 1 is honorable mention.
Number 16, Juvenile Trumpeter is honorable mention.
So
One more honorable mention, yes, and then 1st through 4th.
Right. So let's do number 3 as an honorable mention.
Number 3 is actually 54, Balloon Glow, honorable mention.
And number 4 is number 4.
Fourth place is 60, Looking East.
And number 3 is number 1.
Number 55, Mr. Foster is first place.
And number 2 is number 2.
Second place, 21, Dances on Water. And
Which
that
makes our
leaves,
tractor number 1.
hold on a sec, because you had, maybe we misunderstood. Mr. Foster was, you had said first place, but,
No, he was 3rd place.
okay. $55 of Mr. Foster is 3rd place. Number 21, Dances on Water, is 2nd place. And then the tractor, number 40, Johnson's Wash Tractor, is 1st place. Is that correct?
Exactly.
You got it. Let me move these around. Oh, sorry, Mike, go ahead. Want to go ahead and take that to Ron? Would you like to read the winners again? And I just want to point out there, anybody that's listening online that did not get a chance to explain their images, talk about where they were made and how they were made, post them on our Facebook group and kind of give us that information. So Ron, let's start with number 57, Jellyfish.
Okay, number 57, Jellyfish, honorable mention, and that's Tammy Gorsak. Congratulations.
Beautiful.
All right, honorable mention 59, Abandoned Bus, and that's Catherine Rush. No, I'm sorry, Kathy Hockel. Apologies. Okay. 16 is Juvenile Trumpeter Swan, JC.
Oh, yeah, that was taken at Patuxent Wildlife Refuge, and it is severely cropped because I had the whole swan in there, and I decided to crop it, play around with it, and play around with the background, and that's what I came up with.
I love how you cropped it. I mean, it's perfect.
All right, honorable mention number 6, White Sands, Clarence Carvel. Okay, number 8, honorable mention, Entryway, Chuck Gallegos. Okay, number 54, honorable mention, Balloon Glow, and that's my image, and shot that at the fairgrounds at a balloon glow, hence the title. And I've been trying to work that image in black and white and a couple others, and I finally figured out the last time I did it in black and white, it had red in it. Red always is a good color, so
Yeah,
so that's
I love the fact that you did that and that it's original.
okay. Number 60 is 4th place, looking east. That's Edna Henke.
Catherine Rush.
What's that?
Catherine Rush. It's the second from the bottom, Catherine.
Yeah, I apologize. Catherine Rush, yes. There's a lot of X's and O's on this page by now, so sorry about that. Okay, this is number 55. And Fred, Mr. Foster.
What place?
That is 3rd place.
Yeah, I shot that at the graffiti warehouse with one light, moved it out in front of him, and I tried to get that shadow with his nose, and he moved ever so slightly, but I got about 2 or 3 of them with the nose. Closed that little part, make it lighting, and he just moved his head ever so slightly, but I still liked his look. But I got 2 or 3 of them with it closed.
Nice.
Okay, this is number 21, Dances on Water, Mike Thomas.
I took that over Christmas in Florida, highly recommend it. It was a early morning shot with sunrise and really high ISO, low light image, but the light on the bird was just right.
Yeah, something about that morning light, it seems to have the magic. And our first place image tonight is Johnson's Wash Tractor, and the photographer is Cheryl Kerr. Congratulations. Okay. Well, I think that, Pete, you kind of did yeoman's work tonight. This was tremendous feedback, but an enormously long job. So our apologies for so many images, but thank you for such great work tonight.
There were so many wonderful images. It's amazing. I think
And the
this
good
is the 3rd time that I've judged Arundel, and I keep accepting because I love your photographs.
Well, look for a call for next year.
Okay, well, Happy New Year, everyone.
Right, likewise. Thank you, Ed.
Happy New Year, everyone. Join us next week for our program by Jackie Colstock on geometric photography, and have a good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us.